Member of the Judiciary and Homeland Security Committees. Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time. I know that you also wanted to comment regarding this national conversation we're having on the 20th anniversary of the Violence Against Women's Act on Saturday, 20 years since the battle to get that legislation passed, and we're discussing domestic violence in the NFL.
Tamron, thank you. Good morning. I just could not comment, having been on the Judiciary Committee during the reauthorization of this prevention of violence against women legislative initiative that we've reauthorized over the years. There has to be a call for a national action. We have legislation, but this is an epidemic of great proportion, tragedy, devastating, and I think the voices need to be raised. And frankly, I think there are a number of federal authorities like Health and Human Services that now can raise their voices, helping to deal with the need for counseling and health care around the question of domestic violence. We have to have a national call against domestic violence.
And we also know, I just got word in that the president confirms now, the White House confirms 9 p.m. Eastern time, the nation will hear from the president. But right now, we know that there's this debate raging amongst members of Congress whether the president needs authorization from Congress if he expands airstrikes to Syria. Where do you stand?
Thank you so very much. Well, just came back from the Mideast with a number of my colleagues from the Congressional Black Caucus. In fact, we were actually in the Mideast during bombings of Libya and bombings of Iraq. I think one thing is very clear, that the American people do not want another failed Iraqi policy of the previous administration, no matter how well-intentioned it may have been. I also, as a member of Congress, don't want the politicalization of this, meaning that the Republican House cannot just point fingers about what they want the president to do. They have to take ownership of what we have to do on behalf of the American people. As a member of Homeland Security, I know that the reason why the polling numbers have gone up is because people believe that there is a direct threat to the homeland. Of course, many have rebuffed. The intelligence authorities have suggested there is not an immediate threat, but I can't address the question of immediate. I have to be real and say that if there is a threat, as a member of the Homeland Security Committee, there is a threat. I wrote the president in the last couple of days to indicate that I thought it was important that we had a coalition led by the led by the United States, and that in the Mideast there are willing allies and others who would be willing to stand up against Syria and to stand in front on the issue of ISIS, because ISIS is so devastating. So I think there needs to be a clarity on what the alliance would be. The American people need to know what the alliance would be, so that the collaboration to protect the homeland here would also be to stop ISIS.
It's part of your concern about an alliance, the worry that eventually there would be boots on the ground, United States military personnel on the ground. The president has said that would not happen, but by all accounts, there will need to be boots on the ground, if not from the United States, then from those allies you point out are needed as part of this coalition. Is that why that is key to you?
Tamron, I think what is very, very key is that our intelligence is at its highest percentage of accuracy, because we're going to have to assess what and who our allies are. For example, on Syria, if we are anyway in Syria, we have to know who the alliances are, that they're not President Assad. We just can't come back again and support him. Then we have to define boots on the ground, because there are 1,000 of our military personnel in Iraq as we speak, and that's very difficult to deny that they're not boots on the ground. I am speaking of, and I think the president has to be clear, because I do not support a combative, actual battalion-based actual action of our military. I think that has to be by allies. I think that we have to collaborate with NATO. So we need to define what boots on the ground means. America wants to be protected, and they want to end the siege, the violent and vile siege of ISIS, and we want to bring to justice those violent individuals who killed our heroic American journalists who are operating under the freedom of press, and they were innocent in bringing information. I want them brought to justice, but at the same time, it is clear, one, that Congress does have the right to be consulted because Congress has the right to declare war. But the president has constitutional powers as well. So he needs to clarify, what does boots on the ground mean? How many other boots on the ground from our allies will come? And that we're not collaborating again with enemies that we had previously stood against. And then to let ISIS know that we mean business. And I think the air war, strategically planned, is one approach that we can utilize. Consultation with Congress, and I'm going to be very clear, the non-politicization of this House and this congressional body in dealing with this issue. If the president asks for a certain amount of money, find out what the money is for, get an accounting of it, but let's not play games about the president is not a strong leader or the president doesn't have a strategy. I tell those who came up with that idea, he does have a strategy. The strategy was to be deliberative and thoughtful, to plan the next steps, and we need to be able to stand by our commander-in-chief if we engage in any efforts to end, if you will, the very existence of ISIS, which is killing across the Mideast people who are Christian, people who are Muslim, children, and others.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Right now, the mystery illness that